Man,
That's our sign.
I can't believe you finished Better Call Saul season 6, part 1.
Oh my god.
Okay, that's funny, but like at the very least, part 2 will come out in July. So
Yeah,
That's the
it
thing.
comes out in a month, not 2 years.
Production wise, like it really is part 1, I guess, isn't it?
And
yeah.
like, I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have is you then take over a year long hiatus for the next part to come out.
For anyone
Right.
curious, we're pretty much referring to Attack on Titan, who decided to stretch their final season into 3 full seasons with a year and a half between each or so. Not a year and a half, but like a solid 8+ months in between every season.
And I should also mention, I am 100% okay with them taking time and giving like healthy work schedules to animators if that's what they are doing.
But
it just
the
seems-
advertising behind it is gross.
Yeah, it just seems ridiculous to me that like, oh, it's season 4, parts 1, 2, 3, 4 over the course of 3 years. Just call it 4, 5, 6. Like, I don't. Whatever.
But
I
Better
also
Call
get the
Saul
idea.
does not run into this issue because they've pretty much shot every episode. They're doing post-production in these
Yeah.
last few remaining weeks for the little bit that they have left, which is probably why AMC... Another reason why, honestly, AMC decided to split it is so you didn't get a quick AMC Plus subscription to watch them weekly and then drop
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
They spread it out so you had to get at least 2 to 3 subscriptions, and let's be honest, that's why they did it. It is what it is. But I will say, they picked a damn good chunk to, like, split it into.
Yeah. Oh, man. They fucking trolled the shit out of everyone on Twitter.
They really did.
Oh my god.
There was a post by the director-writer of the episode that, hey, we kind of shot all 13 episodes of the season together, so don't expect season 7 or episode 7 to have a traditional cliffhanger. And they're right, Cliff Main didn't hang, but it did have a Howard shooter.
Yeah.
No cliffhangers, but we do have Howard shooters.
Jesus.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Yeah. Good job, Willer.
This will go immediately in... I will edit this in some way. Anywho. Yeah, Howard shot Jimmy. Can you believe it? Holy fuck.
Yeah. Jimmy's dead. Now Howard has to get facial reconstruction surgery to
become
Jimmy
Saul. Alright, let's talk about the season. We've all watched it
Yeah.
at this point. Bradley got to binge a couple episodes, which is probably even more fun. But Joe and I were doing it weekly. And I gotta say, like, this season's been pretty fire.
I'm very happy with the direction they have gone so far. All the plot lines we've had have concluded so far very satisfactory. And it's only 2, maybe 3 of them have concluded, but all of them so far have been great.
Yeah, this was the best batch of episodes yet.
Yeah.
I will agree. And you know what's funny? And Bradley may not know because, like, I would talk about it with Joe while we watched some of them together. Like, a lot of people were like, oh, some of these episodes in the season are really slow. They're losing their touch. And it's like, have you watched this show? This show's always fucking slow. What are you talking about? And they're like, no, but there was other stuff. It's like, no, dude, it's always been slow. It's always
Like,
been...
You're thinking of Breaking Bad. Like, this show has always been like this.
Even Breaking Bad, they're like, tell me a time in season 5 of Breaking Bad that was slow. It's like, well, there's these episodes, like, before Walter kills all the men, not counting the train episode. Like, all of those season 5 episodes are pretty slow character episodes. Like, that's how these shows have always been. It's always about making the characters feel real. And you don't just skip over the little things. Like, this is how these shows have crafted these characters. It's like, we're going to show you kind of mundane moments of their lives that are going to give you a better insight on what kind of people these people really are. Case in point, you have stuff like Gus and Howard this season, where, like, you're finally getting to see Gus in a side that you've never seen, which is Gus losing. Like, Gus actually worrying, Gus having to scurry and catch up with an enemy. Because in Breaking Bad, Gus is always ahead of Walter. Like, up until his death, Gus is always winning in that show. But in here, Lalo is enough of a threat that Gus is constantly worried. He's making mistakes, and I think that adds a very cool layer to this character where it's like, oh, he wasn't always the immortal, unstoppable Gus. Like, there was a period of time where he too struggled.
I think there's one weakness to Lalo and that is we know he's not Breaking Bad, so he's probably dead by the end of the season.
Indeed,
So,
and that's always been the thing
Yeah.
about like a show like a
Yeah.
prequel.
Yeah.
Unless he's not, because like we don't really know how it turns out, but it's hard to believe. At the very least, Gus needs to think he's dead, because I don't think he would have gone on with his operation if he thought Lalo was alive still.
No,
Or
here's
the
my
way
thought that I was having is Jimmy, I guess, never finds out that Nacho even died.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the thing. It wasn't me. It wasn't. Well, he could. That line is interesting. When we in the first episode of, where we meet Saul in Breaking Bad, he thinks someone's coming after him, and he says it wasn't me. It wasn't it was Ignacio. And then he's like, "Oh, Lalo didn't send you." So you can read that in multiple ways. He might find out that Lalo was betrayed by Nacho, and he's like, "Oh, are people coming after me over this still?" And it's funny because it's like, say Lalo does die. I like the idea of Jimmy being like, "Shit, has Lalo been revived again?" And like the cartel's coming out because he thought Lalo was dead. So to Jimmy, Lalo's currently revived. He's seeing a ghost in his living room because Kim did not tell him the truth. So I really like the idea that Saul's like, "Did this fucker survive death 2 times?" And there's something very funny about that to me. But
Willer and I were talking about this because we watched the mid-season finale together, but like the way they used like a candle in there,
Oh, man.
in that final scene was just so good.
I mean,
Like-
that last scene is one of my favorite scenes in the show. It is so tense.
Yeah,
But I've also brought it out, like, it's so subversive where, like, the season, like, everything's going really well for the good guys, and, like, you're left in the dark about the plan, but you also kind of understand what the plan is, so you're like, oh, is this going to even be surprising? I think I understand, like, a good chunk of the plan. And then, like, they have a hitch and they fix it as well, and it's like, oh, I guess it turned out pretty well. And then you see Howard's meltdown, and you're like, shit, the good guys just won without really even running into any huge issues. They kind of overcame every problem they had. Good guys being a very loose term here.
Yeah, I was about to say,
But,
what were we talking about?
Yeah, but the real subversion, it's like, oh, we were really building up to, like, Howard being at the wrong place at the wrong time, and, like, and, like, Howard was the last character I would expect to die in the show, because, like, either, like, to get killed at least.
Yeah.
Because, like, say Howard does die, I thought it would be from a suicide. I think that's a pretty common thought, that, like, maybe Howard commits suicide like Chuck. But, like,
Dude, I didn't think he was going to die at all. I thought he was just going to, I don't know, fall off because there's bigger things to worry about. Like
exactly, like, at the very least, he was alive during Breaking Bad, but just not relevant anymore. Because, like, why would
I
he be?
thought-
It's
that's
a big
what I
world.
was thinking, right?
up until Lalo walked into that room, I thought what was coming down was that Howard's gonna. This is when Howard leaves the show, but he tracks Jimmy down at the end of the show and catches up with Gene and like is gonna prosecute or just do something or like fucking bring Jimmy to justice in some way, and then he gets fucking killed. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, these are all fun theories we had, but the truth was much darker. Like, it sucks because, like, Howard
fucked up.
had his, like, negative moments in the show. He was pretty mean to Kim in the past, and, like, he was kind of Chuck's lapdog. But ever since Chuck died, if you'll recall, like, he's been going to therapy, and, like, every scene you see of Howard after Chuck, he's either, like, genuinely guilty about Chuck or bettering himself as a person. So, like, for about half the show there since season 4, Howard hasn't been at all bad. He's been a victim who's doing better. So when he goes there and he's like, hey, I've fallen before, I'm gonna get back up, and I'm like, oh shit, Howard's not gonna commit suicide. Like, he's got the will to live. And then the candle flickers and Lalo walks into the room, and it all dawns on you very quickly that Howard's about to become an intimidation kill. And it's hard. Like, a lot of people have turned on Kim and Jimmy, and, like, how do y'all feel? Because some people are like, these people are as bad or equally as, like, almost as bad as Walter White.
You know, I can't speak to whether they're worse than Walter White. I just know my sympathy for them as a viewer reached a lower level than my sympathy for Walter did.
Yeah.
Damn, yeah, that's such a good way to put it. Like, that's super interesting because at some point it's like, man, fuck you, Walter. But he's still like, Walter's still fun to watch, and he's still like, he's still beating bad guys. It's up until like Ozymandias.
Because like, man, they're just being mean. Like,
okay, I want to get into this though. There's a key like nuance to Kim and Jimmy's plan that I think a lot of people miss because it's explored a lot in season 5. So I want to track a little bit of Kim's character development. So after Chuck dies, Howard admits that he was partially to blame to Chuck's suicide. Really, it was mostly Jimmy. But Jimmy unloads a lot of his guilt off into Howard, where it's like, oh, it was Howard's fault. And then it's really hard to read Jimmy for like the rest of the series on how he feels about Chuck. And eventually he feels so disconnected from Chuck where it's like, oh, you just completely offloaded all that guilt and you don't even think about him anymore. Like, you have coped that badly. And then, like, Kim is like, how dare you, like, unload guilt into Jimmy or, like, try to talk to him about that stuff. He just lost his brother. And, like, Kim already has a history with Howard. So this is all just a setup that they both do not like Howard. He's kind of like the punching bag. He's kind of the straw man for all the bad, rich lawyers that have always kept them down, that they kind of despise. Almost seems just, but let's be honest, they're both just punching up at, like, someone who doesn't necessarily deserve it.
Yeah.
And then there's the Sandpiper thing, where if you'll recall, like, if Sandpiper settles, it's almost objectively a good in the world. Because the only reason why Sandpiper's not settling it is so that the funds can go up and everyone involved can get more money. But what that really means is the lawyers can get more money because these are old people. They might die before they ever get to reap the benefits of what, like, was done to them.
In fact, the first, like, client that Jimmy ever had is dead, right? Or one of the first clients that Jimmy ever had is dead.
Yeah, the Alpine Shepherd boy lady from season 1. And I don't remember if she was one of the Sandpiper folks, but Irene was. But it was so nice seeing Irene this season after Jimmy almost ruined the rest of her life with the shoe scam and all that, with the bingo, way back when. What simpler times those were. But yeah, like, and Kim even brings this up in season, like, 5, like, 10. She's like, hey, if we settle Sandpiper, those people get their money. More importantly, we get our money. We need to settle it now. Like, so it's like, it ticks every box for Kim where she gets to do good in the world. She gets to fund her pro bono work. And I want to very much say that Kim very much loves her pro bono work. Like, she's very passionate about it.
Oh, yeah.
The previous seasons, like, they've thrown some doubt where it's like, Mr. Aker, the dude she was kicking off the land, is kind of like, oh, you do this because it makes you feel good about the bad you do. And to some degree, he's right. But also, Kim, like, keeps the letter from the people that help her. She really cares about her clients. So, like, pro bono work for Kim is both something she loves and it's good. She's putting into the world. But admittedly, she does do it partially to absolve her guilt for her wilder side. I think both can be true. That's what's so good about Breaking Bad universe characters is that, like, they have layers and they have a lot of multiple things going on at the same time. They're not one note. So, like, Kim gets to take down Howard, fund a pro bono work, and do a heroic good, which is like... So she didn't, like, stop the thing with Cliff Maine just because she wants to fuck over Howard. It's, like, one of many factors why she wants to do the plan. She gets to do everything she loves in one plan. It's like having her cake and eating it too. So, all this to say, when people are just like, Kim is just evil, she just wants to hurt Howard, it's like, look, she does want to hurt Howard, but she's not just evil. There's more going on in her head that people might have forgotten because it was, like, stuff that was set up more in season 5 and 4. But I think that just makes it so much more interesting, where it's like, it doesn't matter that it's a greater good, because the intentions aren't, like, they're not coming from a good place. Because Howard's right, they get off on this. Like, they're having sex while the deal's falling apart.
Yeah, you know what?
So it's just interesting, because, like, they're not fully evil, they're not fully good, they're, like, morally gray might be, they're mostly dark at this point, but they're not, like, completely devoid of reason. They're not just, like, being mean for no reason. There's fact. Like, for Jimmy's side, it's a lot simpler. He doesn't like Howard, and scamming people is his love language with Kim. So it's like there's more going on than just being evil. But I will agree with you. I have less sympathy for them right now than I do for Walter, which is saying a lot. I didn't think we'd get to this point ever.
Think of the shit he's done.
I mean, dude poisoned a kid. But you know, to Walter's defense, he knew the kid would live. He was really he didn't want to hurt the kid. His life was in line. So yeah, like, I don't know how these shows do it, but they write such compelling, like, villainous heroes, and it's like it hurts when Howard shows up. He's like, I expected this from you, Jimmy. Chuck always knew it. You were born this way. And it's like, if you go back in the series, Howard used to not believe in that. He saw good in Jimmy up until, like, the most recent seasons where Jimmy starts antagonizing him just to get, like, his kicks off, you know. But to see him come down to the point where it's just like, oh, Chuck was absolutely right about you, is really painful. It just shows you how much these characters' relationships have deteriorated. But then he goes to Kim and just completely calls her out, and it's like, he's right, you know, you're really promising. But how do y'all feel about the Kim flashback? Because I feel like that also highlights some interesting things about her character.
Man, I thought she looked so done with her mom's shit, and I don't know. When I was talking to you guys about the scene in Discord, it was one of those moments where, more than any other show with this show, I forget that the actors and actresses are actors and actresses. I just believe they are those characters.
Yes.
I totally agree. I think that scene, like, she seems done with it, but also, like, she gets affection from her mom from them pulling that off together. And it's very ambiguous. Was Kim in on it from the start? Like, you can't even tell from watching that scene. They really do not answer it. You're just left to kind of wonder.
It's like, is this the first time, or has her mother made her do this a dozen times, or was this Kim's idea, or you don't know?
Or was this
her mom's idea?
That's what I kind of am left off. Like, it's her mom being opportunistic about Kim, and like, it almost seems like Kim's acting out, so her mom actually parents her, but her mom runs with it and turns it into a scheme, and then gives Kim some affection. So like, what does that do to your mind? It's like, my mom doesn't really parent me, but she gives me affection if I do bad. Like, how do you take that? You know, it's weird. I'll remind us that there is another scene with Kim and her mom in season 5 where, like,
she's like walking away with the trombone.
Kim is like at trombone practice, and her mom shows up drunk to pick her up, like, way late, and Kim's just not having it. She just walks home, and her mom is like chastising her, like, oh, why you always have to be like this? So it's like, they already kind of have like a trashy, shitty life. So like, I hope we get at least 1 or 2 more scenes, because like, I really like these little tidbits we get that kind of like add more layers to Kim's character. I think Kim's like one of the most complex characters I've ever seen on television. Like, it is incredibly hard to see what's going on in that woman's mind. And that's a good thing, I think, because like, you could break it, you have to really analyze it, but you can really break down what kind of character she is, and it's like, it's not simple to explain what kind of person she is. She's a very layered character, and so is Jimmy. Like, they're some of the most layered characters I've ever seen in anything. What are some other points? I mean, there's Nacho's plotline.
Oh yeah,
that I can't believe that wrapped up by episode 3.
Holy dear. I know, I like, you think they're gonna save it to like the last few episodes at least.
Which are my second favorite episode. This episode was definitely the third one, where like, it has the scenes with like Lalo figuring out he's being watched, like that process of like slowly coming out and seeing that someone's watching him from across, and then sneaking behind the guy, like all of that stuff, super fun. I think that might have actually been episode 2. And then you have the sequence where he goes into the oil to escape the twins, and this dude just had to like bathe himself in oil, and he's still gonna die this season. Like, they really put that motherfucker through the ringer.
Yeah. I also liked a really small thing that they did was like, they delayed Michael Mando's credit until like he has this like really heroic pose on top of it, and then they show his name over Nacho.
Oh, I didn't catch that. That's pretty sweet of them.
They were like, really like, this is it. He's done.
I couldn't believe it, man. When he starts talking about Mike, about the plan, and you start like realizing it's like, oh my god, he's going in there to die, and he knows he's gonna die, and Mike is not going to save him. And you're like, what's gonna happen? Like, something's gonna happen, and it just doesn't. Like,
did we watch that together? We watched that one together.
We
right,
did,
Lauren?
yeah.
Yeah, Willer the whole time was just like, no, there's something else going on here. They're just not going to get him killed. He's not going out there to just die. Like,
how wrong was I, huh?
Yeah.
And like, it's sad, but like, I almost like, why did he do that? But it's like, he doesn't have another, like, he can't turn Gus in. Because Gus, like, that'll bounce back on his dad. He can't shoot the cartel because that's going to look bad for Gus. It's like, oh, did you bring him here and have him kill one of us? Like, it's going to keep suspicion on Gus, and which will bounce back to his dad. He can't keep running away because it's going to bounce back to his dad. So, like, he literally can't escape. He just has to die because no matter how he plays it, he has to get the suspicion off of Gus, and he has to die. And I really like how Gus walks away from that scene, like, absolutely shocked that Nacho could have sold him out, and he did it. And I think this really... I want to see how this plays out for the remainder of the series, but I feel like this was a big wake-up moment for Gus to really, like, analyze who he's working with and analyze who he trusts. Because Gus has been...
And how he leads, probably.
And how he leads, exactly. Because he's been so shitty to Nacho. Like, I've lost so much sympathy for Gus in Better Call Saul because he uses Nacho as such a pawn. And it's like, fuck, man. And I get it, like, Nacho almost killed Hector, and no one touches Hector aside from Gus. There's that whole, like, hate rivalry they have going on. But, like, Michael Mando's, like, performance in that last line delivery is so good. I love the way he says, twisted fuck! And how he, like, confesses that he's the one who put Hector in the chair. Oh, it was a really good goodbye to, like, a very entertaining character.
Yeah. That was also what was also great about that too is that, like, we were sitting there watching that scene and Will was like, man, Hector's not even gonna know that Nacho did that to him, and then he fucking
admits to it. It's so good. That was so, yeah, it was so good. And like, Michael Mando went on to, like, in an interview say, like, what's interesting about that scene where Nacho dies is that every single character in that scene is dead in the current timeline. So, like, all of those men are dead, they just don't know it yet, and he's just the first one to go. And I'm like, oh man, that's so poetic and cool.
Something else that I realized about that scene, and something that I mentioned back when we talked about Breaking Bad, is that, like, a big theme in Breaking Bad is that, like, no, like, evil act you do, like, doesn't cause consequences to someone else. Like,
it has some ripple. Yeah.
It always reverberates. Like, in the finale of this season, like, all of Kim and Jimmy's, like, misdoings end up getting Howard killed, whether they want to, like, believe that or not. And so, like, I think in that moment, Nacho realizes that the only way for the stop my ripple effect in this world is just to leave it, and it will protect my dad from being affected.
I really like that reading of that scene because, yeah, I feel like Nacho's storyline serves to remind us that you do not escape this life of crime easily. The only character that's going to do it, I think, in the entire show is going to be Jesse. And we know what Jesse went through. Like, cool, Jesse, you escaped the life of crime. You're also, like, horribly terrified and, like, PTSD'd because you went through such a hard life.
Yeah.
Which I think circles us to... We've talked a little bit about Gus and Kim and Howard. So let's talk about the main man, Jimmy McGill, Saul. I feel like a lot of this season has focused on Kim, but there's been a couple, like, of good nuggets from Saul. I think the second half is going to really give us, like, a good closure or, like, loop wraparound on his character that I'm looking for.
Dude, as I was watching these episodes, I realized I've done a weird... I was supposed to say reach around. I should say loop around.
No, say it.
But I did a weird reach around. Where, you know, obviously I knew him as Saul going into this show. And then I had to get to know him as Jimmy. And it took me a long time before I think I started consistently saying Jimmy instead of Saul. And then now I tried to call him Jimmy during one of these episodes. And I was like...
He's feel right.
Like he's been Saul for, like, as long in this show as he was Jimmy.
And I mean, it's a gradient. He's getting more and more Saul-esque. Like, there's a scene that both me and Joe noted, like, you know that scene where he's getting Francesca to call in and, like, it's part of the scheme, she's trying to get some information for the scheme, and, like, there's no warmth or jokingness, he's just kind of stressed and annoyed. He's like, Francesca, was that so hard? And I'm like, oh my god, that was so, like, Saul and Francesca, like, that was not charming Jimmy, that was kind of scummy Saul, and, like, it's just one scene in many scenes that Bob Odenkirk is acting, but I was like, oh god, like, we are getting closer and closer to the man that we meet.
Yeah.
Granted, and I had this conversation with Joe, it's like, is the Saul in Breaking Bad, like, is he a character? Does he still have some Jimmy in him? Because we were both thinking of that scene where, like, Saul is talking to Jesse and they're talking about, like, giving money to Andrea, and Saul is, like, really human in that scene. He's like, come on, dude, you don't have to do this, or, like, are you sure you want me to keep giving her money? Like, he's just distinctly not the Saul persona in that scene, so it makes you feel like there is still, when he's off the clock, some Jimmy, but the question is, like, how much? And I think that's maybe what we're gonna get into with these remaining few episodes. Like,
there's 5 left.
6.
6 left. Oh, okay. I thought there were 13, right?
Yeah. 7 minus 13 is 6.
Oh, you're right. Never mind.
Indeed. Bradley, what do you think we'll get, like, out of Saul? And, like, so there is interviews that Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul are going to be in the season, and they still haven't shown up yet. So it's like,
it's gotta only be like in a flash forward, right? Though
I don't know. Here's the thing. I feel like the current, like, Jimmy timeline, there's not much left. With Howard dead, I feel like all we have left is Kim.
He's in the office.
Yeah, he's in the office. Francesca's becoming Francesca. Everyone but Kim is dead. Literally dead or gone.
Fuck.
So, like, I think we only have, like, 3 episodes left of Jimmy's timeline.
And you know
like,
what?
I don't think we can go much further.
Francesca was so crushed, kind of, in Breaking Bad already.
Oh, yeah, she was definitely already the sass master. Yeah, so, like, what I picture is going to happen, we have 3 more episodes of Kim, Lalo, Gus stuff.
Ooh.
And then we're going to... That leaves us with 3 episodes left in the series. I think there's going to be, like, 1 or 2 full episodes of, like, Breaking Bad timeline, and I don't even, like, I can't even conceptualize what they're going to do narratively if they spend extended time in that timeline. Like, are we gonna see what's happening to Saul when it's not, like, when he's not dealing with Jesse and Walt, and, like, how is that gonna inform or improve Breaking Bad? Like, to me, it's really interesting, because with Howard dead, I literally have no idea how we can have 6 more episodes of this show.
Yeah, holy shit.
And, like, also knowing that Walt and Jesse show up, it's like, I can't, my mind can't, like, really formulate a game plan for how this is going to play out. And don't forget, we have to eventually wrap up Gene's timeline of him, like, he was discovered by that taxi driver, and he's like, he almost got vacuum cleanered again, but he's like, fuck it, I'm going to face the music and solve it myself. So it's like, how is that going to tie into, like, these 3 characters that are the same people? I don't know. Like, how is this gonna play out, y'all? Any predictions?
You really think only 3 left of, like, stuff with Lalo? Oh yeah, with Lalo and Tim.
I think it's all coming to a head. Like, Gus is on the watch for Lalo. He's ready to kill on sight. Lalo is he's so close to breaking Gus.
Yeah.
Jimmy is now in the mix. Breaking Gus, coming soon to AMC. Jimmy is now connected with Lalo and Gus again. Mike, of course, is connected. Like, I feel like you can't delay. Like, the volcano's about to erupt. There's only so much before the inevitable like, Lalo Gus confrontation. So, I don't know. Like, as slow as people say this show is, like, plot gets resolved every episode. I can't see us dragging this out until, like, the second to last episode, for example. Like, I can't see 7 to 12 still not, like, not reaching Breaking Bad timeline. But I don't know.
And I mentioned this to Willard too. Is like, when you're making a TV show and they do this, they did this in Breaking Bad. Like, you want the the conclusion or the point you're trying to get across to reach its head by the third to last or second to last episode.
That's how Breaking Bad did it.
Yeah, and the rest of the episodes are like the fallout and the epilogue, pretty much for those characters. So it just matches up that like after it's like 3 episodes, and then we finish up with the Jimmy timeline, and then we kind of see like, well, where's Jimmy now, or like where's Saul now as Gene in the future, and like how does this all relate to his past, present, future? Because we have also not gotten a single black and white scene this season either.
Yeah,
like it feels like they're building up to it.
Which the opening scene this season was super cool with like seeing Saul's house get repoed, and it just makes you really realize. Like, first of all, I didn't know he had it like that. Like, I get he was making a good cut from Walt and Jesse's money, but that motherfucker had a golden toilet. Like, his house. Here, that's the thing. Like, his house is so douchey. So he comes home to that douchey house, but that's not like Jimmy's not that person quite. So like, how is this gonna play out where Jimmy becomes that man who genuinely has a golden toilet? Like, I'm like, what? I just don't see it quite yet.
Is that Jimmy buys that as like a front, and then he goes back to like his and Kim's apartment that he just stays at while Kim's gone. Like,
but what's the logic in that? Like,
if he needs to invite people over, he's got his big shitty house he can invite people over to.
Oh, but that seems like the kind of story they would like. That level of patheticness seems like where we're going. We're like, this man has so many masks and like so many like coping mechanisms of just becoming this worse and worse lawyer, like this criminal lawyer. Like, I like the plot thread of the season where like all the legitimate lawyers saw what Jimmy did with Lalo, and they're like, dude, there's like, I get we're all lawyers and we're all scummy, but like, you gotta have some sense of honor, right? They're all distancing themselves from him, and I really like that. It really feeds into him becoming like a lawyer from the fringes who works with like all the scummiest side of society, and also like he's eventually, I think the vet's little black book was found in Saul's house in the opening scene. Which means at some point he gets the little black book, which is how he always knows a guy who knows a guy. So he probably buys it off the vet before he leaves town or something.
Isn't the vet in Breaking Bad as well?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
He's not. Every time you need a person in Breaking Bad, they generally go through Saul.
I thought that would make sense because like we're in timeline wise, we're getting close to Breaking Bad, but he doesn't know close to that many people yet. So it would make sense if like he gets to know all of them from that book.
I mean,
I think he will get that book.
He's also lawyering people now, but the book was straight up in his house during the opening scene of the season. Someone spotted it there, so it makes sense that he gets it and how he becomes. Because the vet is like, I like how the vet's leaving too, because it's easy to forget, but like, the twins brought a dying Nacho to the vet, and he's like, don't you ever come back here with cartel shit again. So it doesn't feel out of nowhere that he's like, you know what, I think it's probably time I quit around this town. If cartel people are coming over and they know what I'm about, I'm just gonna leave. Gotta love the side characters in these shows. They're very likable. Please look forward to a fun Breaking Bad universe tier list when the show wraps up, where half the characters are S tier or A tier.
And then the other half are A tier.
And then Betsy Kettleman, oh man, it was so nice seeing her.
Oh, but she's a tier.
She's a tier, all right. I like all the like Cliff, Betsy, Aaron, like all these minor characters from throughout the journey getting roped in. Where's Omar and Ernesto? You remember them? Omar was like the guy who helped Jimmy while he worked at Cliff and Maine, and he was super nice.
Where's Bill Burr?
Bill Burr doesn't matter. I want to know where Ernesto was after he stopped taking care of Chuck. He was the sweetest boy. Cliff Maine, by the way, speaking of actors who just feel like people, I don't think Cliff Maine's actor is an actor. That dude feels like a lawyer. Like he just feels like a white collared, like old lawyer man.
I just walked into the room and we started arguing about legal prosecution rights, and they just kept filming.
I just walked into the room and I saw Howard with some hookers. Like that's all I know.
Oh my god.
Oh man, this plan was so mean. The shot with like Jimmy handing the frisbee to the camera crew dudes, like my gut sank, but I was also like, this is really fucking funny. This season has so many like well-timed gags. They have a very good sense of humor with the show. Like, Breaking Bad is also, like, so fucking funny. Like, at some points, these shows are just, like, clown shoes comedies. And I think they're really good at balancing that tone. But we've talked about our predictions. That kind of about wraps it up. If anyone wants to bring up anything else from the season they liked or any other predictions they might have, now's your time.
I don't know.
If I had one final prediction, I think this show ends. I think Kim's going to jail. And Jimmy is going to face the music and finally go to jail. And it's going to be the story about, like, these criminals who have slipped through so much, but eventually the life of crime catches up with them like it did with everyone else, like it did with Nacho. And they're both kind of going to be jailbirds, maybe write each other love letters. That's assuming Kim is not buried in a hole in the desert somewhere.
I was about to say, assuming Lalo doesn't blow her fucking brains out in the first scene of the next episode.
That would be so sick, though.
That would be fucking terrible.
Come on, it would be horrible, but you'd be like, "Oh my fuck, I can't believe they did it." They just.
I know, dude.
By the way, the scene with Lalo, either the scene that we saw or the one that's going to be the start of next episode, is where Bob got his heart attack, which just goes to show you how terrifying Tony Dalton is when he's acting as Lalo. Thank God Bob's okay. He's a great actor and a great guy.
Yeah.
That's my last predictions. Joe, you got anything?
Not really. Nothing I haven't already said here. Like, I just...
Talk about your, like, Saul has to lawyer someone theory.
Oh, yeah. So...
Yeah, who's the final boss?
I mentioned this to Willer, like... When you have a show that's on a premise, it's okay to, like, end that show on that premise. And you should end that show on the premise.
Yeah,
right?
like, Joe was just bringing up how you want the show to end kind of where it begun. And that kind of goes with the lawyering here that Joe wants.
Yeah. Like, Jimmy should do some sort of legal work or have to do some sort of lawyer thing at the end of the show. Because, like, that's kind of what Better Call Saul is about him being a lawyer. And, like, that's how it started off with, is, like, proving himself to be a lawyer. And in Breaking Bad, it ends the kind of same way where, like, Walter White has to, like, face his, like, mortality of, like, the situation he's in and then goes to a meth lab to deal with it. Like, like it's just
what is left for him? Like, the only way I could see that playing out is if he has to defend himself in court. But, like, how the fuck are you going to defend yourself in court from everything you've done? Like,
yeah,
there's no defense. So it's like, and also, like, is that too cheesy? I feel like these writers are really good at writing like, something that sounds cheesy on paper, like Howard walks into Lalo and gets shot, like, oh, fuck off, that's stupid. But then they write it in a way where it's like, oh my god, I could never see it coming.
Well, they write it and they shoot it in a way that's intense.
So, like, as cheesy as it sounds for Jimmy to defend himself, I'm sure they could pull it off. I just don't think, like, he's gonna accomplish anything by doing that. I don't think... Could he defend Kim? I don't know if there's time for a plot thread like that.
Yeah. I could see it, like, Kim is, like, ready to, like, face the music and admit everything, but Jimmy's like, no, I'm getting you out of this, and does his Jimmy shenanigans, his Saul shenanigans to get
what if he's gonna defend Kim? I mean, there's probably some, like, conflict of interest that's illegal with that situation. I guess but then he throws her under the bus to save his own hide. Now that would be the scum who lives in a golden toilet house.
Yeah.
And tells you to kill Badger because it's more convenient. Send him to Belize. Oh yeah, Saul's all about sending people to Belize with his colorful metaphors. Which again, I'm dying to see how he become. Like, the Saul thing could all be an act, but I'm sure there's gonna be, like, some plot thread that connects that a little better than what we have right now. Join us. July, the show will be back, but we won't talk about it until the finale. So join us in, like, 2 to 3 months where we talk about the end of the Breaking Bad universe, not counting that stupid cartoon that they're actually making for some reason.
I'm waiting for Breaking Gus to come out. That's the...
They're getting, like... When you hear about a prequel of Breaking Bad, you're like, this isn't going to be good. And it's like, oh, wait, no, it's as good. It's fantastic. But you hear about that fucking cartoon, and you're like, come on now. Like, this is milking it. For anyone who doesn't know, there's like a Jimmy prequel cartoon show about his time as a student. It's like, what the fuck?
Who cares?
It's called Slippin' Jimmy. Now, did you forget about that?
I remember now.
The only way I like this is if it like breaks all canon, and there's also like Child Walter, Child Gus, and they all know each other, and it's like,
Jimmy, you can't just keep doing that.
I want Child Walter making pop rocks for Child Gus as Old Man Mike goes.
I want Hank to be the hall monitor.
Oh my god! The more like, there's no way this would be good.
I forgot Hank showed up in this series. I remember when we were watching this and we got to that episode. I hadn't started Breaking Bad yet. I was like, "Who the fuck are these two? Why do y'all care?"
Meanwhile, popping it's Hank and Gomi, man. You don't know Hank and Gomi. Anyways, join us for weekly talks about the Slip and Jimmy show. All right. Goodbye, everyone. See y'all in a couple months.
Bye.
Bye.